Y'all see that? So this is what happened. My mom, my number one fan is my mother. Uh, got me this thing. It's like a shoe rack, right? I got this from work at the last place, and it was one of the things that was just like unclaimed, and so I was like, I'll take it. Why not? Those two things live there for the right now. So yeah, I don't know why it made me. It makes me chuckle. Anyway, so if you saw the short that I posted, I was just at the gas station, chilling in the truck, and I look up and I see a raccoon, and I was like, okay, hi. So I'm shuffling the wild unknown animal spirits. I'm gonna look before and after the raccoon, and I don't know what I'm gonna do from there. I honestly have no idea. Excuse me. I'm kind of surprised it hasn't popped out in the cut yet. Because usually, sometimes, I'll see the card that I'm looking for at the cut. So, we'll give it 3. Ooh, 2. 1 more. Okay. Earthworm. Bottom of the deck is the beaver. I was seeing the beaver at the cut. The deer. Somebody just posted on there. One of my friends just posted on his Facebook story a deer. He was like walking by a wooded area, and the deer was just like watching him walk by, I guess. So the deer and the zebra came out. Excuse me. Looking very similar. Interesting. And then the earthworm is here carrying a lot of colors of that zebra. This just in general, it almost deer makes me feel it's like a silent watcher. It's not necessarily a bystander, but a deer doesn't necessarily approach just anybody and everybody. It sits in a space of observation. The zebra, I wonder if this is almost a question of if we'll be able to see something. Earthworm makes me think of foundations. And it's actually below the foundation because the earthworm digs the tunnels through the dirt or whatever. And so I don't know if it's a question. No problem. Anyway. It's empty. It's almost this question. It's almost a question of like of the and then the beaver is here, and the beaver, oof, the beaver, the sea serpent is under the beaver. The beaver is the builder. So maybe it's this like because there's the beaver. It's like there's what the beaver builds, and then there's everything that structure is like built upon, or it's like the bedrock that the foundation is built into, which is like a Plutonian energy. I don't know if it's just like the things that we've established and built in our life, if they're going to be tested in some way. But it feels more like the work that we've done, affording us an opportunity to see things that are kind of easy to miss. And again, it's like that's where the third eye is. With this, there's a lot of like, because the earthworm is about that, like what it's like the foundation, it's the earth that the foundation is built into. It precedes even the foundation of a thing. It goes much, much, much deeper. Um, because of that, I don't know. It's just like it's almost will we see opportunity when it comes. Anyway, and it just feels like it'd be easier to see, it'd be easier to recognize something as an opportunity if we can get past an initial appearance. Raccoon. Oh, look, it's the other zebra. Horse, raccoon, and otter. Excuse me. The cheetah and the hummingbird. I'll take them because then we get fire, earth, water, and air. And then we have the lion and the stingray outside of that. Another fire earth combo. So before the two before the raccoon, it's the cheetah and the horse. The cheetah and the horse are both associated with like movement, but the cheetah's a lot faster than the horse is. But you can't ride a cheetah, right? I mean, I guess if you're of a stature and of a weight, sure. The cheetahs aren't known for being for carrying other things or for being able to hold weight. And then we have the otter and the hummingbird, which are two very like light and playful, also sort of like spotlight, just like this deer in a way, but not. It's almost like if you zoom out from the deer, then you would see the spotlight. You can kind of see the edges of it, on the edges of the card. It's like, if I did this to the hummingbird, then it would look just like the deer. But then here's that circular, spotlighty. The hummingbird and the otter both have like a lighthearted, very light energy. What am I doing with this girl? I don't know. Do I ever know? No. I guess another thing that's interesting is it's like the horse and the cheetah are facing away from each other in a way, while the otter and the hummingbird are facing each other. So I don't know if that's going to be like or if it's an energy of pivots. I also feel like I mean, the lion and the stingray came out outside of this. And the stingray in this deck is, it talks of alignment because you see the like chakras or whatever, the spine of that stingray. And then with the lion, it's like there's a strength in that. Which again pulls me back to this earthworm with the zebra. The strength of one's foundation. The strength of, it's almost like one's ability to maintain and to hold alignment. It's almost like tower proofing or weatherproofing something. If it's tower proof, when a tower comes, it won't tumble. And maybe that's what plays into that. Like, would we be able to recognize an opportunity when it comes in? Because of how it might present itself. So the presentation could be all of this. Because while both of these have, hey Holly, how you doing? While both of these have energies of movement, they're also playing different, like cheetah's playing more to the sun and the horse is playing more to the moon. So now I don't think it's a bad thing that they're facing opposite directions, because the cheetah being the sun is the more outward facing. The horse being the moon is the more internal. The horse also, like the deer, has this same frame, but since the horse doesn't come with any color, then, you know, unlike the deer that has like these greens and yellows and some blues. And then we got the same greens, yellows, and blues in the otter, but in the hummingbird, there is the entirety of the rainbow. This was the creator and the wild unknown archetypes. The other day, it had all the colors around it. And there was the temple that gave us the yellows and the greens. The crone had like the blues and the purples. And then whatever that other color was, whatever that other card was, it stretched us from like yellow, green. Basically, it filled out the rest of the colors. What's interesting about the hummingbird is, though, that rather than being contained inside of the circle, they're radiating outward. We don't have, I mean, there isn't another eclipse coming up until what, like October or something? Well, I guess it's actually both. It's from the inside out. You can see it on the inside, especially down here. And then it radiates outward. So I don't know. Hey, David, how you doing? I don't know if this was like there's like a difference between the internal state, like our internal state, and what we do externally. And then now there's this harmonizing between like the internal and the external, where we are that person who we want to be in whatever way, shape, and form. And in order to be that person that we want to be, sometimes it does require us to do some kind of healing, growth, maturity, therapy, and then with that strength of alignment, so that we don't come out of our character or whatever. It's almost like it's like a moral, not necessarily moral or ethical, it's an integrity of character, but integrity in like a structural sense. Like, again, like that tower proof. where there isn't a situation or a circumstance or someone who gives you a little bit of attitude that has you turn into whatever. And then later, you might be like, wow, I wish I would have handled that differently, or I wish I wouldn't have lost my temper. I wish I wouldn't have yelled at that person because maybe they were blah, 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 whatever. But it's an integrity that, like, again, it's like the character, if like people were the building, so that when the wind blows or when the earth moves, the building, well, I guess in real life, if it sways a little bit, it won't collapse, or it'll be tougher to collapse when it moves with that force. But in the metaphor, well, I guess, yeah, it's still the same. Where it can like wiggle a little bit, but it maintains its whatever. It doesn't become this whole other person. Why the raccoon though? And the raccoon was like, so at the end of the video, like halfway through the video, the 8 seconds, it like turns around and it starts to walk away. And then I say bye. And then you could see it like stop. It just like it gets closer to the edge of that, the brush, but it never like goes into the trees. It's sitting there. And then when Max came out of the gas station, like it didn't like fully approach, but it like walked back up a little bit closer towards the gas station parking lot. Oh yeah, it was like the deer. Basically, it was just sitting there watching stuff. It's like, oh, is it safe to approach? Is anyone gonna leave a slice of pizza in the parking lot? I don't know what it was waiting for. And I feel like I don't often see them in the daytime. Usually you see them more at night. Even this raccoon is depicted in the nighttime. Interesting. And it's the only one at night. Well, technically, I guess. Because, excuse me, because the otter and the hummingbird, they have that color. These are almost like full moons. They make me think, I don't have the Moonology Oracle deck, but they make me think of the Moonology Oracle deck. We're about to have a new moon, Cancer, soon-ish. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen. So I don't know. There's something about, I'm like, I don't know why the raccoon. Like there are other animals that, like I could have seen a toad or a frog. I could have saw one of the swans. I have the. I'll use the elemental oracle. Why not? I didn't put it away, so I didn't put it away. Ooh, I'm tired. I should take a nap. If I take a nap early enough, I won't be up all night. Wow. Yeah, I'm just like, I think I'm going to turn these all up right. I think there was one that was in reverse. The only card in reverse is Inner Core. Solidity. Soliditationibus. And the Desert. Maybe it's because the raccoon is a scavenger. almost meaning like the raccoon is the one that takes the things that other people leave behind, or like they rifle through trash. So what is lost or discarded? And maybe again, that was like it's a testament, or that energy is here between the zebra and the earthworm. Well, I guess between all three of these, about whether we'll see the opportunity behind a challenge, or I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but it is the raccoon that would jump on whatever other people are missing. It's opportunistic, but it's not opportunistic in like, because I feel like the word opportunistic has a negative connotation to it. But it's just like maybe it sees value in things that other people don't, or maybe it has an ability to utilize things in a way different than others. And so that being like, somebody else will use it until they have no use for it anymore, and then they throw it in the garbage. And then the raccoon goes through the garbage and they find it. And so there's something more or something different. There's something different that the raccoon gets out of it than other people do. And it's not just like people, it's just like than other people and or animals. And I guess that's interesting because the raccoon, at least to my knowledge, the raccoon scavenges in a way that is not like the vulture. Like the vulture goes after dead things, and then it's part of the decomposition cycle. But I don't know if the raccoon is eating dead stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like the stuff that people throw away. So that element of death associated with the vulture isn't here. Which again, it feels like it plays into that earthworm. Because it almost feels like there is something testing or trying here. But because the earthworm is here, it's like the work was already done. The soil's already been aerated. It's like it's about what's below the foundation. So I don't know. It's not one of those like prepare for whatever. It's like the fruit of one's labor is going to be visible. Like you'll be able to see it on the tree. The time to plant the seed is not when you want the 17th, 18th. So when the node switch, gotcha. We're going to have a cardinal new moon when the nodes switch from fixed to cardinal. So it'll be Aries and Cancer and Libra. Interesting that there's no Capricorn. Well, Pluto's retrograding Capricorn. Well, Pluto's retrograding Aquarius, and it's re-entered Capricorn. And that, like in the Earthworm, Pluto isn't a. Excuse me, Pluto reads Earthworm to me because it's the underworld, and the underworld is under the world, basically. So yeah, that's why I don't know. It's just more of like again, it's like if the work was done, then that opportunity will be seen, or then something will work out in a way that it might not have before. And it's because the raccoon is the one that sees opportunity where others just see garbage. The raccoon is the treasure seeker, I guess. So the trash. All right. Elemental Oracle for the raccoon. We have number 2, adventure, the direction of south. Bottom of the deck is breath, life, number 27. And then there's that inner core, one of the two cards that was in reverse in this deck. Oh, is this little Nikki? So apparently, like, apparently, Venus is about to retrograde. Like, Mars is already in Virgo. Venus is about to retrograde Leo. Mars is just going to keep going, and Venus is going to be playing catch up. I thought that Mars and Venus would like conjunct in Leo, and then Venus would overtake Mars. But apparently not. Apparently that's not happening. This makes me think a little, Nikki, because I was just talking about Pluto in the underworld, and she's like, "Where are you from?" And he's like, "The South, the deep South." Because Nikki is from hell, basically. I mean, he is. So, like, not South and the. Speaking of Venus, though, I don't know anything about the. So, Venus is going to conjunct the sun because it's about to retrograde Leo. We're going to be entering Leo season in what, a week and some change. And I know Venus has superior and inferior conjunctions where it goes from being the evening star to the morning star. I don't I'm not into it enough to know which is which. But there could be that like rising from the underworld when Venus becomes the morning star again type, which is interesting because that would roughly be Phaeton. Phaeton came out recently. Um, oh, that's the moon horse. Rather than the, I was just talking about I was just talking about Apollo. That's funny. Uh, Phaeton is the son of Apollo who didn't have the willpower or strength to pull the chariot, and so ended up in the underworld. And then Eridanus came out in the, it's like from Aquinar to Acamar. And basically, it was like Phaeton is pulling the chariot in the underworld so that when Phaeton rises, he'll be strong enough to pull the chariot in the overworld, like the regular in the world, right? And so that is almost this like, it's this healthy amount of internal work that can now match or meet the external world rather than the internal almost primarily playing like secondary. Where we become on the outside who we are on the inside, basically. So there's a Persephone energy here. This is Persephone because it's the life. If South is the deep South, because it's the life in the underworld, the life in the underworld is associated with Persephone. That's like the pomegranates and stuff. The only things that grow in the underworld. And then, I don't know. Maybe it's the skeptic in me that's like, it's real funny how when Persephone is in the underworld, everything dies because Demeter, Ceres, is so upset that her daughter is with Pluto that she just lets the earth go. Okay. Well, I'm like, oh, okay. So to me, because when Persephone is in the underworld, now we got things starting to grow. So which one is really associated with the growth? Is it the daughter? Is it the mother who's so grief stricken or whatever by the loss of her daughter that don't nothing grow? Or is it her daughter, the one that like really does all the growth? And don't nothing grow when she's in the underworld because she ain't here. It's almost like when one of those, we ain't got to go that far. But yeah, the life in the underworld is Persephone. And that the raccoon in that would just be like, and that I don't want to say that Hades or Pluto would be garbage, but Pluto would be the one that's sort of like discarded. Persephone would be the raccoon that goes and like loves Pluto. And then there are those who can't fathom how or why anybody would like love a Pluto or love a Hades, right? And it's because they don't see what Persephone sees. If they did, they too would be all over Pluto. Not to say that that's the anyway. It brings life to areas where there wasn't life before. It brings hope to areas of our life where maybe there wasn't hope. It brings joy in spaces and environments and situations where it was so hard to find it. But it feels like the emphasis is on the individual. It's because the individual did what the individual needed to do within themselves that now there are these other things that they can experience in life. Because it's like it's what they energetically tend to. And it's like without the crutch, maybe Persephone was Demeter's crutch. I don't know. I was always, not always, but one day I was just like, oh, it's weird that when your daughter ain't here, don't nothing grow. But that's because you upset. It ain't because she is the one that's actually doing all the work. Anyway. Then I guess that is kind of similar. Zeus is like, oh, well, we can't let everything die on Earth, just like when Phaeton took the sun too far and almost froze it, and too close and almost burned it, but you can't kill. It's like there was no way to smite something or someone to fix that. So then they were just like, oh, well, we can afford to be dark like half of the year. So Persephone, you'll spend, half the year with the love of your life and the other half with your overbearing mother. Stingray and the Lion, though. It's like it's when the work itself benefits you. It's like, if you go and work out, if you build muscle, then when you need that muscle, you'll have it type of energy. You know what I mean? It's like maybe you go into the gym for like, it's almost like it's making me think of like a strong man versus a bodybuilder. Like a bodybuilder is very much so about aesthetic, while the strong man is very much so about like strength, because it's the strong man that's like pulling tow trucks with their teeth. And it's the bodybuilder that's doing the curls to pump the muscles and to show them off. Right. But it's almost like it's a bodybuilding strong man. It's like something that may have been done for aesthetic. It's not that it was done for aesthetic, but it just feels like it's going to be a time where we really see, again, the fruit of those labors. It's the bodybuilder that goes to pull a semi truck and it can do it too. The bodybuilder can do it too. And bodybuilders was like, oh, I was building for aesthetic. I didn't know that these muscles actually work. You know what I mean? There's an intention and there's a purpose. And that's why it's this earthworm. It's just like it's so deep, it goes below the foundation, below the root. And it ain't necessarily your earth star chakra. I mean, I guess it could be. All right, that's what I got. That's what Raccoon has. If you have felt discarded or whatever, know that the one who will see you as treasure is coming, and the one could be a person, the one could be a friend, the one could be a job, the one could be a series of meetings and events and happenings in life that again get you to appreciate all of the things that you've done for you, but also that get you to appreciate like the uniqueness of who you are as an individual. They say that just like fingerprints, no two zebras are exactly alike, but that don't stop zebras from hanging out with other zebras. You know what I mean? Anyway. Oh, no. Now I'm curious. It was life. It was breath again. There was a card that like almost flipped over, but it didn't. And I was like, oh, no, I'm curious. Well, who are you? Because at first I was just like, yeah. It was breath again. Life. Interesting. Cool. Love that. I'm going to get final cards and then your boy could use a nap. A nap, a nap, a nap. I want to sleep, sleep. A nap, a nap, a nap. I want to sleep, sleep. I want to sleep, sleep, sleep. And again, it's just like the earthworm. It doesn't feel like, I mean, it could be. It's just not reading like it's time to do a whole bunch of stuff so that you can whatever. It's just like it's more the fruit of labor. Again, like the time to start cooking isn't when you're hungry. The time to plant the seed isn't when you're making a salad. You plant the seed before in preparation for and in the belief that you'll have a harvest when you want one / need one. That came out recently, I feel like I read it in a book. Was it one of the Wild Unknown Alchemy cards, maybe? I think it was one of the alchemy cards. I don't remember which one, though. No problem. I feel like it was one that was like, oh, it was the new pearl. That's what it was. It was the new pearl. And it was basically literally about this. Well, not basically, literally. But in it was like, the reward, like the pearl is an energy that it takes so long to form, like a diamond. It takes so long to form that it's easy to question if the work is even worth it. So the challenge for the new pearl is to continue doing the work, even if there isn't an immediate payoff. It's like it's cashing out now. And it's like you let it sit in escrow. I don't know anything about escrow, but follow me. It's like you let it sit in escrow to accumulate and to grow, and now you're cashing in. And it's going to be much bigger than if you would have withdrawn immediately. Like that's why you put it in escrow, in order for it to basically to be self-generating. But now you can just go to the store and buy a pearl. So anyway. All right, who is the final animal that wants to make an appearance? Excuse me. Ooh. So the otter flipped over and threw the egg out the deck. But okay, yeah. So the otter came out and chucked the egg out of the deck, but the snake the snake slid over and coiled around it to save it, so the egg doesn't break. Oh, look, we see all the colors from the earthworm. See, the cosmic egg and the cosmic egg, the snake, and the earthworm sometimes all play together. This is playing earthworm to me, but it's like it wasn't. It's almost like the ugly duckling, but it's not. It wasn't an earthworm. It was a snake. It was just a baby. It was a really small baby snake that had that looked like a worm. Um, but it's also this like, and it plays back into that. It's the bodybuilder that finds out that their muscles are for more than just show. They can compete in the strongman stuff too. And it's almost like, they can more than just participate, they can actually compete. Like you can put your name down and show up. That'll make you competition. You can be a part of the competition and not be competition. You know what I mean? It's when Yada Sophia was like, that's because they needed somebody to go home first. So, and it's literally in her name. Mimi, I'm first. Who else is going to go home first if not Mimi? Hello? But anyway, it's like as the earthworm like sort of did its thing in that space, it was changed by the thing. So the earthworm actually became the snake. It was transformed by this very thing that it was working on. Bottom of the deck is, it's the firefly. Very luminous. The firefly is literally from the inside out. Like we could kind of see it with the hummingbird. You can definitely see it with the firefly. That's what it like come from. It come from the inside. Now it ain't as colorful, but that's not the point here. There's also, it is a card in the Threads of Fate Oracle cards that's very similar in tone to the New Pearl. I think it's the card of freedom. And it was like, be careful that one doesn't desire freedom so badly that they neglect actual responsibility, because to neglect a responsibility today is to pay for it tomorrow. Because eventually at some point, something is going to have to be done. So it's actually within the energy of freedom to be responsible, because it gives you the time, availability, the resources. It gives you everything that you need to actually do whatever you want to do. Right. But that's because now that the earthworm has like transformed and become this snake, it's looking at the otter. So it's almost like now one can afford to be a lot more lighthearted, a lot more carefree, a lot less tense, a lot less reactionary, because of everything that was done. Again, it's like when the work works on us. But that's the whole thing about transformation, right? So that's not really, it's like, it's one of those things that it's like, it just feels like it wouldn't, like, why else would you do the work if not to be transformed? So it's not like groundbreaking, but to be a human, to be a person, and then to actually experience that, like, wow, okay, so like I knew it was working, but now I know it's working. You know what I mean? There's a difference between like, oh yeah, like I'm down a pant size, to like now I can run marathons and then a decathlon and then a triathlon and like all of this stuff. Like it's one thing to look a certain way, and maybe the look is a part of it, but it's another to actually be able to do something within one's body. The look is a part of it, especially for some people. But some people develop dysmorphias too, where it's like no matter how things change, they always look the way that they used to because of something in the mind. Um, and for that, there are people that are much more qualified to help and assist than I. Extremely much more qualified. North, expansion. From the deep south to north. But what I love is that like all of that is coming from that one person. You see that person? Yeah, you can see that person because my camera is focusing. I love it. Sorry. And it's like it's coming from the mind. There we go. Hey. And it's like, they say that the mind can be one's greatest enemy or one's greatest ally. It's almost like this is the same mind that did nothing but lead to depression and anxiety and create these worst case scenarios or lead to this sort of analysis paralysis, or it's the one that can never move. And it's like, yeah, girl, sometimes that's what happens when you out there doing it and then you do it. And then you're like, whoa. I remember like high key, it was after my darkest night and I had started meditating and stuff. And I had started like working to accept the things in my life that I could not change rather than running from them. And I had gotten dropped for the second time. And I was in my room. I was starving some days. I was like, wow, and I remember I would talk to my friends and they would be like, hey, Patrick, how are you? And I'd be like, I'm strangely not depressed. Like I've been, and like, this is one of the worst sort of situations I've been in. There's a lot of not great stuff happening in my life right now. And I didn't graduate and I was so close and blah, 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 but I'm not depressed. And then there was a part of me that was like, oh, I don't want to jinx it. But there was another part of me that knew that I wouldn't. Because at that point, again, I was addressing all of the things that I didn't. And since then, I haven't been. I might have a day, not even a whole day. I might have times where I start to sink a little bit. But because of everything that I've done within me, like now there's a naturally buoyant force and I'm not treating myself the same way I treated me before. I'm not comparing myself or holding myself to impossible standards of like, if I weren't in this life situation that I am very much so in right now, things would be completely different. Now it's like, okay, well, sure. But that's not that's not the case. Like you are where you are. So comparing yourself to where you would be or could be or what would be happening if you were anywhere else is it's a moot point, girl. Don't do yourself like that. There's a lot of self-love and other stuff that came into play. And again, like I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder in 17, because it was after I was an RA. And then there was a semester I did a medication. I was just good that semester though. Maybe that's because I was like actually doing something. I was like feeling good. And then the semester after that, I was not feeling good. And I was also not on my medication anymore. But because everything was going so well that one semester, it was one of those where and it just like, I need to go get a prescription refill, or I forgot to take it yesterday. Did I take it today? Did I take it 2 days ago? I was surprised that I kept taking it for as long as I kept taking it. But then I had that darkest night, and it was like, for me personally, I knew a lot of the things that I was avoiding. And it was just like, I know where I gotta go. This isn't something that, like, even if I had medication, I would still need to do this anyway. And I haven't needed it since then. But y'all also see me. Oh, if you're new here, then I have on here processed through things and talked about things I was going through in life. And the conclusion was more often than not. Own up to it, face it, work through it, rise to the occasion, meet the challenge, don't run away, because I did that for the upper majority of my life. And I was a depressed mess for the upper majority of my life. And if I had a good whatever, it was probably followed by a few days that turned into a few weeks that might have been like a month to a few months. Sometimes it was bad. But again, that's when the work works on us. That's like a part of it. Anyway. Enough about me. This time it's about you, apparently, and all that you've done to put yourself in a better position. And all that you are now primed and ready for. I think I was gonna make a community post. I was gonna pull cards, and then I had a thought earlier to like make a spread. I don't know. It's basically about nexus points. Um, and so it's basically it's like a Three of Pentacles energy, which is collaboration and teamwork. Many pieces coming together, many people coming together to make something happen. Collaborative efforts, especially for things that require many heads. And it was just this like, when we are doing the thing that we're doing and we're meeting other people that are doing the things that they're doing, it's how we become not vehicles of success, supplementary and complementary to one another's success. It's just quite simply how we all have a different role and a different part to play. And then we come across people or we find ourselves in situations that are playing their part, that are performing their role, and then those things start to happen, basically. You know? Like, how many times is it like these two people who were friends or who were like roommates in college or who knew each other way back when, they go through life, and then life or situations, circumstances just so happen to see them meet again. But because they've lived life, because they've had experiences, now they have a lot under their belt and they created this thing. Happens all the time. That's the point of the village. It's to leave and then to return, you know? Anyway, or that's how the village grows. And by the village, it can also be us. Maybe there are certain types of experiences, like, you know, you hate vegetables when you're a kid, and then when you become older, you go on an appreciation for them. And they can say, well, that's because your taste buds change as you grow older, so your palate just naturally matures. And then you have an appreciation. It's like if your taste bud profile isn't so like sweet heavy or whatever, it like diversifies. So now there's a lot of different flavors that you can appreciate rather than whatever. I don't know. Anyway. I hope you all have an amazing whenever you see this. Thank you, Holly and David, for being here. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And according to this girl, I hope that you stand ready, arms open and willing to receive all that is for you to receive. I hope you a patience and a clarity if you need, and an ear to really listen, and an eye to really see, you know. And I guess I hope you've done anything and everything that you needed to do to get where you want to be. And like, again, like I said, like it didn't read as like do a whole bunch of stuff right now, but honestly, at the end of the day, we all got to do what we got to do, right? So then that's another part of it. We're just being able to do whatever is required for us to get what we want and to be where we need to be, especially in a way that is contributing to others, or in a way that is collaborative, and that teamwork, and that many heads, and that many viewpoints and perspectives required, you know, type of way. That was a degree by degree by degree by degree, 360 to make the whole world I mean, the world is a globe. It's a sphere, and not a circle. 360 is for a circle. When you add depth and dimension, there's a whole bunch more degrees you got to put in there because it's not flat. So it's not static. Anyway, I will catch you when I catch you. Say arigato. Domo arigato gozaimashita to the raccoons for finding treasure in trash. I don't know.